Godzilla vs. Kong heat ray piece. Godzilla 1991 Hokkaido heat ray piece. Godzilla 2014 heat ray piece. Guys, I don't know where this idea came from that the Frostbite Shimo that was recently announced was gonna just reuse the existing heat ray pieces. Thus, you could just take any heat ray pieces and plug it into the base Shimo. But that's completely untrue. No, these are not the same heat ray pieces as what's coming with the Frostbite Shimo.
In this series, we're going to be taking a look at every single Hiya Exquisite basic figure in the Godzilla line. Every repaint, reissue, 2.0, whatever they put out, we're going to be taking a look at them all in release order. Let's get started.
Today, we are finally taking a look at the highly anticipated Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla x Kong the Frozen Empire Shimo. Let me tell you, people were going fucking crazy waiting for this figure, and it felt like an eternity before this finally came out last April. But guys, let me tell you, this figure was absolutely worth the wait, and I am so happy that Hiya finally figured out their distribution and got this kicked out the door internationally. This is not a figure you are going to want to miss out on. I'm going to skip a lot of the preamble in this video because there's a lot I want to talk about. Let's go right into the detailing. If you caught my Godzilla 2014 video, you would have heard me talk about how I really felt that Hiya had stepped up their sculpted detailing game, and this figure takes that into the stratosphere. The sculpted detailing on this figure head to toe is breathtaking. Every inch of this figure's body is covered in insanely sculpted scales of various shapes and sizes. And these scales are so well defined and so fine that anywhere your eyes gravitate to, you're going to be seeing a different texture. It's insane what they did with this figure. I mean, just look at the side profile. Look how many different textures they got on just the skin, the scales on the skin, that is. Just look at this ridge line here. Look at the scales directly under it. Looks like corn on a cob. Then you go directly above the ridge line, and you have 2 or 3 different types of scales from this very rough, almost tumorous looking scale pattern going on here by the shoulder to a more traditional scaling over here by the ribs. And they fade in and out to different textures going up top towards the spines as they smooth out to more of a spinal column look. That's just one patch on this figure. You get completely different scale texturings here by the ass, completely different scale texturings up here on the neck, different textures here on the face, top of the head. I mean, there's too much here to talk about, guys. This is, in my opinion, Hiya's best sculpt to date by a country mile. It's not even close. The legs have these beautiful dragon scale patterns going down the top of the thighs, down the knee, down to the toes. The feet are beautifully sculpted. The belly has this amazing dragon scale pattern going on, again in various shapes and sizes. And that's not even talking about these crystals yet. I mean, guys, at this point, the footage just has to speak for itself. You could dissect any limb on this figure and talk about how impressive it is on its own. The one area that I feel is rather inconsistent with the rest of the figure is going to be the tail. The moment you get to the first tail joint is where the detail kind of gets a little soft. Now, don't get me wrong, the tail is still beautifully sculpted, but a lot of those finer details are really kind of glossed over. It's not bad, but it is one area that could have used a little extra love, in my opinion. I could probably fill a whole 20-minute video just gushing about the fine details on this figure. I'm going to spare you that. Let's move on now to the paint, where I'm sure I'll take up another 6 to 8 minutes just talking nonstop about it. Anyway, what are we looking at here in terms of paint? Well, the entire base figure is going to be in this almost snow white coloring. It's more of like an eggshell white. It is very nice. But top to bottom, this figure is also going to feature a very subtle pinkish brown wash applied, which is really going to make all of those scales stand out. And again, it's very subtle. It's hard to tell at a glance, but that pinkish brown is everywhere on this figure. It's more harshly applied down by the feet, and you can kind of see it more on these large scale plates. But in all the cracks and crevices throughout the scales, yeah, it's everywhere. Now that we're talking about the paint, let's take a look at these crystals again. These crystals are going to be painted blue. They are not transparent. They are a very flat blue, almost a sky blue, although there's a nice gradient as it goes from a dark, almost ocean blue as it fades up into a sky blue, at least for the crystals on the back here, as well as the nails. The nails are also going to be this dark ocean blue with just the smallest impression of that sky blue right at the base of the nail. The teeth and interior of the mouth are very impressive, especially coming off of that 2014 figure. Speaking of beautifully painted, these fucking eyes, man. When I got this figure in hand and saw these eyes, this figure right here was the inspiration for this channel and this video series. I was that blown away with the paint apps on these eyes. This is Ghidorah's gravity beam. This eye is the same size as the very tip of Ghidorah's gravity beam. And on something that small, they got 2 to 3 coats of paint there. If you got this figure last year and you said this was your figure of the year back in April, I don't think anyone would have questioned it. But we're not done. I'm not done with this thing. The back also has slight blues airbrushed on top. It's very subtle. It's not meant to glow. It's just there to help transition the colors, and it's so expertly done. And on top of all of that, they have given this figure a pearlescent shine. Yeah, this figure catches the light in a way, so much more dimension to all the colors. There's this purple shine going on at least the crystals, and on the base of the figure, there's this bluish, almost yellow shine throughout all of it. All right, let's now talk about articulation. Now, this is going to be one area that you're either going to be slightly disappointed by or very impressed by, depending on what you're comparing this to. Starting with the head, the jaw is on a hinge, and it's a pretty fat hinge too. The tongue is also on a hinge. Now, my tongue likes to get stuck up near the roof of the mouth, and it can go all the way up, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get back down if I let it go all the way up there. So the head can look down about that far, and it can look up about that far. Now, that's only due to the crystals on the back there, and it can look side to side about that far. Now, if you just rotate the neck, you can get the head looking all the way up, like so. I believe that these legs are on ball joints here at the shoulder, but the sculpt is going to be very limited. So they can only splay out about that far. For example, they can go in about that far. So again, that's the amount of range you're getting out of those shoulder pieces. But they can kick around all the way, like so. You are going to get a swivel above the elbow. And speaking of the elbow, it is on a double hinge, so you get a hinge right there. And then this is actually a ball joint here below the elbow. So the arm can kick up all the way like so. And because it's a ball joint, you can also rotate it around right there. There is a joint here right above effectively the wrist, the ankle, whatever you want to call it. This is on a hinge. So the foot can kick down all the way like so, can hinge up. All of the toes, as you can see here, are also on pinned hinges. So they can all hinge down like so. The thumb is actually on a double hinge. You get one here at the first knuckle, and then one here where it connects to the hand itself. And then all these can swivel around on that hinge. These are on ball joints, and you're going to get a lot more range out of the hips than up by the shoulders. So these back legs, if I can get a good angle of this, they can splay out pretty far, and they can go in towards the body about that far. So again, you're going to get a splay. There we go. About that far. Knees are also going to be on double hinges. You're going to get a very nice hinge right there. And then down here, you're going to get another hinge, but it's much more limited. But you can get the leg bent about that far. Again, very nice. You are going to get another hinge right here. It can probably swivel all the way around. Again, I don't really want to find out. Oh, and then you do get a hinge right here below the knee. If you see stuff flaking off the leg, by the way, that's not paint. That's the kikis that dried that is just kind of rubbing off right now. Ankles. These are large revolver joints, and they're very smooth to work with. These are probably Hiya's best revolver joints, honestly. So it can hinge down on that axis. You can rotate it above the joint. Then you can rotate the feet below the joint. They kind of plug in like this. So you can rotate the foot like that, which is very nice actually. The toes on the back legs are not posable, but that is a-okay with me. Now the body, this is a very impressive engineering system for a design like this. So you're gonna get a ball joint here and a ball joint here, but how they've cut the spines, so you can see up there, there's a little slit right there for the spine. So you can get the figure arched back with a little bit of a curve on the back, all the way like so, and you can crunch the figure at both points, about that far. Very impressive. But then on top of that, you can rotate the figure all the way around down here. Just be mindful of those spines. And you get a little bit of a wiggle back here. And you can also, believe it or not, rotate the figure all the way around up here. Again, I applied a shit ton of kikis in there because this was also very loose. So I'm not going to risk rubbing all of that shit off. But trust me, you can rotate it all the way around. And you also get an excellent pivot, like so. Both of those combined let you get a really good pivot from the figure, about that far side to side. A very impressive amount, again, given the design of the character. Now, the tail is, unfortunately, in my opinion, the weakest aspect of the figure in terms of articulation. So just like all their other tails, these are all ball-jointed segments. And for the most part, it does move around pretty nice. It just isn't as expressive as I would like it to be, especially given how basic the design of the tail is. I feel like it could have curved a little more. But that is about the extent of the curve side to side. It can only curve up about that far, and it can curve down a pretty good amount, but it would have been nice to see it be able to curve more, at least to the side. I don't really mind if it can't curve all the way up, but side to side, it could have definitely used a little more range in my opinion. Now, how does this figure scale? Well, this figure is actually going to stand approximately 5.5 inches tall. A little taller if you include those back spikes. It'll be standing closer to 6 inches. And with Shimo here completely straightened out, she's going to be a whopping 15.5 inches long. Holy shit. While this figure isn't the tallest on all fours, the sheer mass of the figure is a sight to behold. Let's take a look now at some comparisons to get a good idea of this. Alright, here is Shimo next to a standard Hiya Toys Godzilla, as well as their largest figure so far, King Ghidorah. Here's Shimo besides a Titanic Creations action figure, as well as the SH Monster Arts Mechagodzilla. One of Bandai's action figures, as well as a Super 7 Super Kaiju figure. And here is how Hiya Toys' Shimo will stack up with some of the SH Monster Arts Godzilla X Kong figures. And guys, that's just how the figure looked straight on. Here's Shimo standing upright at an angle now. Let's go back and take a look at a few more examples just to really demonstrate how large this figure is. So here is Shimo standing up next to Super 7's Ultimate Destroyer figure. It's a big figure. It's a big, big figure. Shimo is so big that on her hind legs, it even rivals Hiya's Ghidorah figure in height. And again, here's how the two compare just lengthwise. Shimo is just such a shelf hog no matter what pose you get her in. This is an impressive chunk of plastic. All right, let's go ahead and start wrapping this video up before I really start getting carried away. So, Hiya's Shimo. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This thing was delayed a very long time, but honestly, I think it was well worth the wait. It is unclear to this day why Shimo was delayed as long as she was. Hiya Toys has confirmed that they updated something, but we actually don't know for sure what. There were rumors that they scaled her up, rumors that they re-engineered the figure. I honestly don't know what they changed, but whatever they did, they cooked. This is a remarkable improvement from what Hiya Toys was putting out before. A landslide new standard for Hiya Toys. Really, my only two issues with the figure are going to be the front shoulders and the tail. And of those two, I think the shoulders is my biggest issue. It's more of a nitpick than anything, though. I wish the shoulders had as much range as the back thighs, because really the only thing you're getting out of these front shoulders is just a swivel. And I would have preferred if you could actually move them around on a ball joint. That could just be the sculpt interfering though. It's a little unfortunate, and I think that would be an easy enough fix, but I don't know. I'm just kind of talking out of my ass here. The tail though, the tail is very unfortunate because that I do think would have been a simple fix. We just saw them do some incredible tail work on the 2014 Godzilla figure, and this feels more in line with their older Godzilla molds. The tail is pretty simple as far as the design goes. I mean, sure, there's the spikes on top and there's a lot of sculpted detailing on them, but there's no like harsh plating that you'd see on Godzilla's tail, for example. There's not a ton of spikes on top like on Godzilla's tail. I think they could have pushed the tail further in terms of range of movement, but it's not a deal breaker, and neither are the shoulders for that matter. Everything else, though, is simply remarkable. This is an incredible value, too. I didn't even talk about the price. You saw it on screen earlier. This figure costs barely anything more than a standard Godzilla figure. This figure costs almost the same as a skull crawler. I mean, holy shit, guys. I don't know what you were thinking with this price here, but this is a mind-blowing value. To briefly talk about the elephant in the room for a moment, the subject that I poked fun at in the intro, the Frostbite version. If you're someone who would prefer translucent spines or an effect piece, I think at this point you should just wait for the Frostbite version, which is set to release this year. We'll see. But if that's not exactly something that's a must-have for you, this figure is now in stock at most US retailers. And I would imagine retailers in other countries as well. This is a no-brainer purchase. This fits in just about any figure line that you have. It really is that good. It only has a couple flaws, and they're very minor flaws. They're nitpicks, and they're not so tragic that it takes away from how good this figure is. This figure is a step up from everything else Hiya has put out so far, and I really think that's the best way to put it. This figure is just a step up. I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. Guys, if you're not convinced by this, wait out for the Heat Ray version, or the Frostbite version, excuse me. And if that isn't convincing to you either, there's the SH Monster Arts, which also looks like a fun figure. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Till next time. See you.